Welcome everybody, to today's 10:30 presentation on HR analytics and Workday HCM. Hopefully you're here today if you're at all curious about the data community impact from switching from PeopleSoft Human Capital Management over to Workday Human Capital Management. Today, I'll briefly introduce myself and go over our current state of HR analytics and reporting. First off, can everybody hear me okay? I guess I didn't really. Okay, cool. Then we'll go over the transition to Workday, talk about what my team and the project team have done to scope out the impact of all of this, how things might change, and things are definitely going to change. We'll talk about how this impacts the ASU data community. Workday offers a lot of analytical resources that will significantly impact the way that we analyze workforce data. And then we'll move on to what the future looks like and how we can evolve after we go live in December. And then finally a Q&A. So my name is Patrick Samuels. I am with ASU's BFIT team. I am a enterprise support assistant director, and I am the reporting and analytics lead for our Workday implementation project. A little bit about me and what led me here is I'm very passionate about data. I studied psychology in college, and I was introduced to really cool programs and methods that really opened my eyes to what data can do to provide insights. Specifically, I was introduced to R programming language, and that showed me just how quickly massive sets of data can be quickly wrangled and turned around to make valuable insights. That kind of journey led me into human resources, just because that was the first field that I went into as a professional. And in that role as a humble HR assistant, I noticed just how inaccessible HR data was. For simple questions like what's our head count, how many terminations did we have this past year, that kind of thing. A lot of institutions are behind in being able to readily report that. So I chased opportunities to arm myself with the skills and experience necessary to make that happen for a given unit. All right. All that led me to here to ASU, where I'm actually able to be directly involved in HR data and the future of HR data for a university. So currently, PeopleSoft is our primary HR data source. It's our system of record for all things regarding our workforce data. Reporting out on that data is through heavy usage of PeopleSoft queries, the query manager tool. So for our operational reporting, like headcount, turnover, compensation changes, et cetera, more often than not, a PeopleSoft query is used. As many of you may know, the limitations are significant when it comes to the query manager tool in PeopleSoft. A lot of duplicative work is carried out in the PeopleSoft query landscape. And so that leads to the necessity of having more advanced analytics housed in our ASU analytics portal. By a show of hands, who accesses reports via the analytics portal or as, run a dashboard on there? So many of you. So that is because it's way easier to throw HR data into a data hub like our enterprise data warehouse or operational data store to model it and make it reportable from there. And from there, our OHR analytics team has been able to create very robust and dynamic dashboards and reports that serve these basic workforce inquiries. So point 4, our enterprise data warehouse and operational data store serve as our data hubs for workforce data. And all of this data supports HR operations as well as institutional insights. So like I mentioned before, transactional human resources data, payroll data, all the way to institutional analysis like our equal employment opportunity reporting and census reporting, all are sourced from HR data. So transitioning to Workday. We go live with Workday on December 23rd, so little more than a month away. There are many benefits to moving to Workday, specifically in its accessibility, its user-friendliness. It's not so clunky, and you don't have to know exactly where you need to go in order to find a given business process or report. Workday comes with a very sophisticated search feature, similar to how many of us just go to Google when we have a question. It has a search bar that you can approach like Google and find your way to a report or a process. As far as analytics and reporting goes, it's baked into the experience of Workday. Workday has upwards of 5,000 standard delivered reports that just come with the software, as well as very advanced customization opportunities. And that's more or less where my team has come in. Understanding where those delivered reports might fall short or successfully account for a given reporting requirement. So additionally, the user experience and the real-time data are significant benefits of moving to Workday. Challenges and opportunities. The big challenge, as I'm sure we all see it, regards historical data and this period of conversion. Not all of our PeopleSoft data is going to be loaded into Workday. So for a period of time, Workday will not have sufficient historical data to report out on. So if you had a business question like, what was our turnover rate from 2015 until 2020, we will have to join or union data from Workday and PeopleSoft in order to answer that question for a period of time until Workday has sufficient historical data represented there. Opportunities, as I said at the end of that sentence, once we are working with nothing but Workday data, the analytics are very, very advanced and sophisticated, both stuff that comes right out of the box as well as customizations. You're able to create dashboards and what's called discovery boards right there in the user interface, and the reporting functionality is sortable and filterable in ways that you can only really access in Excel in current state. So how does this impact the ASU data community? So I decided to show our whiteboard that sits behind my desk most days. So about a month ago, we had a whiteboard session to kind of scope out the work that we've done as we've seen it. So I'm going to stop here and go over the data flow as we kind of see it. Up in the top left corner, we have Workday, and I'm sorry if you can't really read this. But we boiled it down into terms of operational reports and then advanced analytics or institutional analytics. We know that Workday has such robust functionality to take care of most, if not all, workforce questions. So we developed a suite of operational reports that are posted right there in the Workday interface. And they account for all kinds of topics regarding workforce data. Headcount by everybody at ASU, by VP College, by supervisory organization, which is our new organizational structure data point. In current state, we operate off of the PeopleSoft department ID. In new future state, we'll be operating off of the SUP org. Staffing activity like turnover, transfers in and out, hires, rehires, promotions, all have dedicated and dynamic report solutions right there in Workday, whether they're standard delivered or customized through the work of the project team as well as my own. Apart from the operational consideration, we have to consider the big data world. HR data has to be present in a warehouse format so that it can be joined with other data like student data or faculty data, which is workforce data anyway. And it needs to be presented in a meaningful, reportable way. In our current state, PeopleSoft data exists in the data warehouse in a very raw state, I will say. A lot of reference and lookup tables are necessary to model your data in such a way that it's actually functional and reportable. So my team did a full scoping exercise of those key data elements in the data warehouse. How many of us have queried PS job? A fair few. So we understood that, or we sought to understand the impacts of those key tables and how they're represented downstream in various reporting solutions or data solutions. What we came up with was a suite of RAS reports, which are reports as a service, which are web-enabled Workday reports that we outbound out to our data warehouse and operational data store. Through the analysis, we came down with the objects that you see here in that little bubble that speak to the most important elements of workforce data. Organizational data, so our supervisory organizations table, which is comparable to our department table or our department roll-up table. Position data, job codes, job profiles are a dedicated table. Worker snapshot, it's called our worker current table, and that shows everybody with an employee ID, whether they're active or terminated, what their job title is, who they report to, and their various other descriptive information. Worker history, which it shows transactional level data similar to PS job, which is where you can find your terminations, your hires, your transfers, what have you. Academic appointments is similar to worker current in that it's a snapshot of a population of folks, but these are all the folks with academic appointments. And so faculty, tenure information, academic ranks, that's where you can find that. And then payroll earnings and payroll deductions. So everything from the earnings side of things like regular overtime, and then deductions like taxes and retirement. So the blank area down on the right is kind of room for the future or historical considerations. Anyway, felt like sharing that. Like I said before, Workday reporting offers delivered reporting functionality right out of the box. So if you had a simple question about your team and maybe their reported time or their vacation hours, you can search my team's reported time and one or two delivered reports will pop right up. Where one of those standard delivered reports falls short, we have a lot of flexibility to customize reports. And that represents the bulk of the work that my team has done. We've developed over 170 custom reports that will be available on day one, or on day one of our Workday implementation. And we'll be able to modify and customize from there, as well as create new ones. How it impacts the data community. A reduced need for the technical resources to query the EDW. So what that means is that for a given business question related to HR data, they won't have to outsource that solution to ET's resources necessarily. For simple queries that regard active headcount by a certain set of criteria, they'd be able to run a report or simply navigate Workday to find that answer, and they won't have to depend on the data warehouse or depend on ET's resources to put that together. So I think that that's a big win for the data community, a lessened need for just general operational reporting to be outsourced to y'all. Higher quality data in the data warehouse itself. So like I said, all of our data in the data warehouse has to be modeled to a reporting format. Our tables, like I showed here, are already in a reportable format. So you don't have to carry out complex joins just to get descriptive information. We've essentially created tables that are already in a reportable view format. And they'll be refreshed daily. Some of our most high value views, whether they're enriched or curated by the data warehouse, some of them are only updated every pay period. We have jobs set up for daily refreshes and room for more frequent refreshes as necessary. So just a brief shout out to the data warehouse and operational data store teams for being able to make that happen. Here are the views in the enterprise data warehouse. In ASU Global, we have our supervisory organizations view, and that is the detail at the soup org level by unique soup org ID. That has their description, who that manager is, who its superior is, and then 10 levels of hierarchical roll-up. Additionally, we do have a crosswalk available. That is in the ODS in current state, as well as a Google Sheet. But if you have a question about how a legacy PeopleSoft department ID relates to a future state soup org, there are resources available to at least try to understand what that looks like. Worker current, as I said, is an employee snapshot. Actually, I've already gone over this for the most part, but any questions regarding the tables as they exist or how they will exist in our future state here? and I'll leave room for proper questions during the Q&A. ODS, similar. Our jobs that outbound to these different databases are pretty much the same, but their methods of extraction and representation as tables or views is a little different. So similar naming convention for the ODS. WDC is the prefix. SUP orgs, a SUP org crosswalk, worker current, academic appointments, worker history, and position and job. So future state. Workday will be our primary HR data source. And it is a lot more centralized than current state because our recruitment activities will be carried out right in Workday. Things like our career edge and edge conversations will be carried out right there in Workday. So it just represents a more centralized, unified HR experience. Workday delivered and custom reports will be favored as opposed to tedious PeopleSoft queries. The analytics portal will house historical reporting solutions as well as more advanced analytics. So hopefully the relative lift on the analytics portal is lessened for simply querying like a headcount or something like that. And we're actually able to consider the analytics portal for more robust and advanced analytics. New suite of HR tables and views in the EDW and ODS. And then, of course, more reliable data for HR operational and institutional insights. With a new HR system comes a lot of opportunity to clean things up, the way that we govern our data, and et cetera. Resources. We have a Slack channel. It's where's that data kind of sub-population. Where's that data Workday HR? Got over 200 people in it right now, and it's always a really good place to post your question, look through old conversations. We're very attentive to it, and if we don't have an answer for you, we usually connect you with somebody that has the answer right away. I hold office hours from 11 a.m. to noon on Fridays. Also a great opportunity to connect with other people that might have similar questions, or if there's a way that we've figured out a certain way to query or wrangle a population, chances are we're able to talk about it in these sessions. The final two are Google Sheets. One is our master mapping sheet where you can look up an object or a field and find what that Workday equivalent is, or at least turn around enough information for you to ask a good question. And then the department ID to SUP org crosswalk. This is refreshed daily. The effort to map people to SUP orgs is an ongoing endeavor. The biggest task the project had to do with this was get people to map their people to a future SUP org. It was, a hard thing to wrangle, but refresh daily, and this shows how that relationship looks. It's approaching a one-to-many relationship where there's one department ID and several parent SUP orgs. And feel free to ask me anything about that. Kind of cruised right through it, but thank you. Questions? Shoot. Yes. The idea is that those views should remain unchanged depending on the specific view you have in mind. Just ASU Global just is going to have the SUP orgs table in there. That's it. Yeah, it's not going to be impacted any more than that. Yeah. Yeah. And everything is set up to go on living. Nothing's going to be like taken out of the data warehouse. Those tables or views just might go stale or become functionally irrelevant. I know that there's a lot of views that were put together for our Workday Finance implementation that do a lot of like budget to actuals reconciliation stuff. And with Workday being both HCM and finance now, a lot of the need for those views that marry finance and HR data is going to go away. But yeah, Josh's favorite answer, it depends. If it has a PS prefix, follow up with me about it. If it's a campus solutions PS, it's gonna go on living. The campus solutions remediation team has done a lot of work to remediate those key tables or dimensions that need or that are necessary for operations to continue. It's a good question though. Yes. Yeah. And if it's good enough, it'll get pinned. Yeah. In current state or in future state with the Workday data? It'll be refreshed daily as of now, but then depending on your application's need, work with us and the operational data store team to maybe put a use case together for an hourly refresh or but we are set up to be refreshed daily as of right now. Questions, comments, concerns? I flew right through my presentation, so floor is open. And I much prefer the office hours setting anyway. Well, I won't hold you here. We're here for, gosh, another 40 minutes or so. So if you want to mill around or something, by all means, go ahead. I won't hold you here. But I am here to answer any and all questions regarding this transformation. I really appreciate y'all attending.